Unfortunately, there was a ton of injuries in week 3 of fantasy football. So my job here is to help you guys improve your team, help you guys find some replacements if you lost James Conner, CeeDee Lamb. It was brutal. The list goes on and on. So in this video, we're talking about 10 plus players that you need to be adding in fantasy football before week 4. Let's jump on into it. Starting off with Trey Benson. We know James Conner, unfortunately, done for the year, and this is the first guy of the fantasy football season that I would be okay dumping 75% of your fab, maybe 100% of your fab if you have Conner, or if you had Conner, or if you really need a running back, because Benson is going to be the workhorse back for the Cardinals moving forward. And he saw elite usage after Conner went down. 87% snap share, 71% of the rush attempts, 50% of the routes run, and is sporting a 13% target share on the year. This is an Arizona offense that we know wants to run the football. Kyler Murray has no problem checking it down to the running back either. And Benson is a dynamic, talented back. He was drafted in round 3 of the NFL draft in 2024. He's very versatile. He can do everything pretty well, and he's looked really good this season. Last year, his rookie year, he kind of disappointed, but so far this season, he ranks top 10 in yards per carry, yards per touch, explosive run rate, 13th in yards after contact, 8th in runs of 10 plus yards. I personally would be aggressive getting Trey on your team. I think he has top 12, top 15 upside the rest of the way. Moving on to our next guy, Luther Burden III, the rookie receiver for the Bears, coming off the best performance of his NFL career, 3 catches, 101 yards, touchdown, 19.8 fantasy points. And yeah, a lot of his fantasy points came on that beautiful flea flicker. I mean, the throw from Caleb Williams was a dot. It was an incredible throw, but the toss backwards from Swift to Williams, not so much. It felt like that ball was in the air forever before Caleb Williams caught it, but nonetheless, Burden is starting to emerge here. Yeah, they have a lot of weapons on offense. Rome Odunze is breaking out. DJ Moore is still a solid producer. DeAndre Swift. Burden only saw 31% of the snaps in week 3, so it's kind of hard to say that he's going to be this immediate contributor next week, right? But it was his highest snap share through the first 3 games. We like to see that. And if the former second-round pick can eat into that wide receiver 3 role on the roster, then he could be a difference maker down the stretch. We always say, bet on talent. The talent is there with Burden. Caleb Williams looks light years better in this new system, in this new offense this year. Like last year, Williams, I was like, he might be a bust. But this year, he does look tremendous. And the offense is really starting to click under Ben Johnson, who I think is a tremendous play caller at this point. He knows how to develop an offense. But for me, Burden is more of a high upside stash right now. He's probably going to make the stash video on Friday. But if you have room, I would be getting him at the bottom of your bench, because you never know what can happen in the NFL, right? I always believe that talent wins out. He could have a role as this offense evolves. Moving on to our next guy, Trey Tucker absolutely exploded last week. 8 receptions, 145 yards, 3 touchdowns, 40.9 fantasy points. He was the wide receiver 1 on the week heading into Monday Night Football, 97% snap share. And while I don't recommend chasing points, right? Like, don't go crazy with your fab to get Trey Tucker on your team, because this is going to be his best game of the year, maybe his best game of his career, right? I think he's a good player, but don't expect him to be this high producer every single week. But this is his second strong fantasy performance of the young season, so I wouldn't say that it's nothing, right? He's a wide receiver 2 on this offense, probably the 3rd option, right? Not probably. He is the 3rd option in the passing game behind Brock Bowers and Jacoby Myers. And it looks like Geno Smith starting to get comfortable in this offense, led by Chip Kelly. This offense could explode down the stretch. I think they have the pieces to be really good. Geno Smith is a quality quarterback. Tucker, another talented player, only 24 years old. We definitely see wide receivers break out in year 3. It wouldn't shock me if Tucker is a solid fantasy option the rest of the way, but don't go crazy with your fab, because we don't really know. But he is a speculative add. If you really need a receiver, if you lost CeeDee Lamb, then definitely I would say 5 to 8% of your fab seems fair. All right, next man up, Alec Ayomanor, the rookie receiver for the Titans. He's been on a stash video of mine before. He's been on several waiver wire videos. So hopefully, if you've been watching, he's already on your team, but if not, I would consider adding him this week, as he scored a touchdown in back-to-back weeks, along with 13-plus fantasy points in each of his last 2 games. The reality of the situation, guys, is that I just don't think Calvin Ridley is that good anymore. I did not draft any Ridley this year. He looks cooked. He looks uninterested. He just doesn't seem like he has that juice anymore. Alec, on the other hand, seems like he has that juice. He's a really talented player. He has a rapport, a connection with rookie quarterback Cam Ward. Like, it's a thing. It would not shock me if by next week or the rest of the way that he is the wide receiver one on this team with a talented quarterback and an offense that like has no playmakers. So that's why he is such an important add, because he could survive on volume the rest of the way. And he's already shown us that he's a talented receiver. He's had some nice splash plays. I think those continue. If you want to talk about Alec compared to Ridley in terms of fantasy points, Alec has 32.7 fantasy points on the year. Ridley, 19.1. Yeah, Calvin could get it going, but I just think that Io Manor looks like the better receiver at this point. I think he's going to continue to grow his rapport and connection with Cam Ward. And if you need a receiver, go get this dude, because when players like this flash in their rookies, it tends to build, accumulate over the year. He could be a league winner down the stretch. I know he doesn't seem flashy. It doesn't seem fun, picking up a Tennessee Titans receiver. It's not a good offense. This is another guy that I would not go crazy with your fab, but I would definitely be trying to get him on your team. All right, moving on to our next guy, Ollie Gordon, another rookie, running back for the Miami Dolphins. Was kind of invisible through the first 2 weeks, didn't really do anything, but flashed in week 3. He had 9 carries, 38 yards, scored that touchdown, saw 100% of the snaps inside the 5-yard line. He looks like he could be the Dolphins' goal line back, which would give him some standalone value if that continues. And Ollie's obviously the perfect fit for that role. Bigger back, much bigger than Devon Achane. Gordon sits at 6'2", 225 pounds. He's like a mini Derrick Henry. And remember, this is a guy who racked up over 2,000 total yards, 22 touchdowns in 2023. And then in 2024, the offense was horrible, tanked his draft stock. Miami got him as a round 6 pick. I think from a talent perspective, he should not have been a round 6 pick. But here we are. I think the Dolphins got a steal. And as we know, if anything were to ever happen to Devon Achane, I think Ollie would be an immediate top 15 back the rest of the way. So I think he's a stash add, right? I think he could grow into a flex-worthy player and then would be potentially a league winner if Achane were to get hurt, which he's proven to us in the past that he does get hurt. So that could happen, not wishing for an injury, but that's where Gordon holds the value. We talked about this in last week's stash video, but your bench should be filled with high upside running backs, high upside players, rookies, that if something were to happen to the starter, you have a guy that's a top 15 or top 12 at the position. Not necessarily the case as much with receivers, right? If a receiver gets hurt, doesn't mean that the next man up is going to be this league winner. But running backs, if the starter goes down, then you have a guy on your roster who's going to potentially get a ton of work out of the backfield. So I love stashing my bench with running backs. You should be doing the same. But if you want more information on that, more tips, Friday we will have another stash video coming out for you. All right, moving on to our next guy, Tory Horton, rookie receiver for the Seattle Seahawks. Are you catching the theme? There's a lot of rookies on this list because you want to hold on to rookies. You want to get rookies onto your team now before they break out. But talking about Horton here, he's been balling ever since the preseason, and it all just kind of carried over into the regular season. He has a touchdown in 2 straight games, 3 total touchdowns on the year, including that 95-yard punt return touchdown that just happened in week 3 against the Saints. That was super fun to watch. He also had a 76% route participation in week 3, which was tied with Jackson Smith-Njigba and Cooper Kupp. Granted, the starters did get benched at the end of the 3rd quarter, but still, they want to get this guy in the field more. And with this Seahawks offense looking pretty good, Sam Darnold is a good quarterback. It wasn't a Minnesota thing. It wasn't a system thing. Like, Darnold is a really good quarterback, and I want as many pieces of this offense under Darnold. New offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak. This is a fun offense. There's going to be a lot of fantasy producers already. We know JSN is looking like a top 12, top 8, maybe a top 5 receiver in fantasy. There's a lot of good players on this offense. It also wouldn't shock me if Horton was the number 2 target in this offense behind JSN. Cooper Kupp, older receiver, hasn't looked good this year. This is kind of what we thought, right? He's been cooked for years now, doesn't really have it anymore. So Horton could emerge as the number 2 option behind JSN. That would not be surprising in the slightest. And Tory is a freak athlete. This guy is crazy, as he scored a 9.83 relative athletic score at the combine, which ranks 66 out of 3,816 receivers from 1987 to 2025. This is an athletic receiver. This is a bigger receiver sitting at 6'2". This is an explosive, quick receiver who can take a punt return 95 yards to the house. Like, we've been saying this whole video. Bet on talented players on good offenses like Seattle that have already flashed, that are rookies, that are going to get better, that could break out, right? Like, it's simple at this point. We prefer running backs, but obviously get these young receivers as well, because some of these guys on this list will most likely be league winners down the stretch. All right, moving on to our next guy, Woody Marks. I always think of Woody from Toy Story every time I see his name, but he's seen his role grow every single week. It's increased little by little. And in week 3, he saw season highs in rush attempts, route participation, and target share. He had 6 carries for 27 yards, 4.5 yards per carry, 1 reception for 9 yards. It was just pretty much him and Nick Chubb in the backfield. Woody saw 49% of the snaps compared to Chubb, who saw 51% of the snaps. Wow, this Houston offense looks like a disaster. You might be thinking, like, why would I want anyone on this team? This offensive line is terrible. CJ Stroud doesn't look good. I still think that this offense is going to improve. I do, and Woody could carve out a significant role on an offense that we know is not terrible. And he officially stole all the pass down work from Derrick. Not going to say his last name because I'm probably going to butcher it, but he's the pass down guy in this offense. It's not Nick Chubb. And when you have a running back who's in that pass down role, that can be very valuable for fantasy, especially in PPR leagues. And that's his specialty. Woody Marks is a great pass down back. He's great in pass protection as well. That's going to get him on the football field. They need a pass protector at running back because their offensive line can't block anything. And to prove the point even further, Marks had 83 receptions back in 2021 in college at Mississippi State. 83. That is elite, and has more career catches in college than Ashton Genty, Omarion Hampton, and Travion Henderson combined. We don't need to say anything else. That pretty much speaks for itself, but he's not just this gadgety receiving back. He can get it done on the ground as well. I think he's going to continue to chip away at Nick Chubb's rush attempts, who is like Cooper Kupp. He's another guy that doesn't really have it anymore. He's a veteran leadership. And while Chubb hasn't looked horrible, I just think Marks is a better player, and he's also had a higher yards per carry than Chubb for the second straight week. So I think he's going to continue to see a larger role. He's only a stash for now, but it would not shock me at all if he is the guy for the Texans by midseason. I personally don't think that we see Joe Mixon this year. It seems like it's not going to happen. Maybe he comes back at some point. We haven't really had many updates, but everything that I've seen, it seems unlikely. I could be wrong there. But if Mixon does not come back, I think that Marks could eventually be the RB1 on this offense and a top 24, top 15 back in fantasy. Moving on to some honorable mentions, Blake Corum, who didn't have a huge role. We were expecting a bigger leap in week 3, but we didn't see it. But he's still getting opportunities. He's getting opportunities earlier in the game, and he's producing. His yards per carry has been great. He looks explosive. He looks dynamic. It's the Kyren Williams show, which we figured Kyren was still going to be the dude, but if something were to happen to Kyren, Blake Corum would be a locked top 10 fantasy running back. That's why you want to get him on your bench, because if Kyren goes down, Corum would lead you to a fantasy championship. Like that, he's the one guy in this list that if you can add to your team now, do it. All right. I also like Brashard Smith, the rookie running back for the Kansas City Chiefs, because Isaiah Pacheco, Kareem Hunt look horrible on the ground. They need to do something with their running backs. Why not give the rookie a chance? Jaden Blue, the rookie running back for the Cowboys, also a nice add. You could also consider adding the 2 running backs for Washington, Chris Rodriguez, Jeremy McNichols, who had that 60-yard touchdown run. It's kind of a messy backfield in Washington. We don't really know. Is it going to be Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt? Who's it going to be? But adding one of those guys, if they do end up taking over the backfield, then you would be pretty happy about that. Tajay Spears, you can add to your IR spot right now. He's coming off that ankle injury. Tony Pollard has not looked great, so Spears could have a significant role once he's healthy. Tyquan Thornton, who's looked good for the Chiefs. Jackson Dart. I'd be adding Jackson Dart if you're in a super flex league or if you need a quarterback. He's going to be the starter this week. Like, there's a 95% chance he's going to be the starter this week. I'd be getting him on your roster now before he's announced as a starter, and then you either have to pay up for him or you have to beat your league mates the waiver wire. All right, that wraps it up. 10 plus guys you need to be adding onto your team now if you're dealing with a lot of injuries or if you're just trying to get better, trying to stash some potential stars on your bench for a late season run. These are the guys that I like right now. that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate all you guys, all your support, and I'll see you in the next one.